Hey, folks, and welcome to another episode of Centered.Live. Today is our 25th episode. I was going to say 25th anniversary.
I know, right? But it sort of feels like that. I mean, 25 episodes that we ought to celebrate.
I know.
I can go get a cupcake or something.
25th episode, and this is awesome. So today, have you ever wondered about the innovations that have changed our world? I mean, talk about inventions, but I'm going to cut the music.
There you go.
I mean, but what's really changed our world as human beings, not just, little things like learning how to grow crops better, although we're going to talk about agriculture.
We are.
So, but I'm excited to talk about tech, right?
Of course, Randy. So I'm Paul Malloy, ready to put these innovations into their proper historical perspective and context. This isn't just about gadgets. As cool as gadgets are, it's about the human story. So if you're not already familiar with who we are, I am a historian and a teacher, and Randy is a lifelong technology expert. Today, we are discussing the 10 most impactful inventions in human history in chronological order. So get ready for some lively discussion.
Right. So we're talking impact, not just, something that's clever or, you stack up a couple of rocks and call that.
True. This is true.
But truly changing things on a global level, something that changes society and it lasts.
Right. Absolutely. So, Randy, lasting is the key, really. And some inventions actually hit and fade. Others redefine existence. So, what we're looking at in terms of invention is deliberate creation, not just simply a natural discovery.
Okay, right. So let's go in chronological order, and let's start with the dawn of humanity and work our way to the digital age, which is my favorite. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
No cheating. I mean, you're the story, and you know a little bit more about this than me. So
I'll not skip anything important. I promise.
Right.
So we tried to pick things that aren't just incremental improvements, but genuine leaps in technology. And by technology, you're going to find that we are really talking about things that are tools to leverage and help human beings survive more effectively. So things that have unlocked new possibilities.
Right. And for me, it's about scalability.
Right.
It's being able to grow that invention.
Right.
Or foundational impact. So there's other things that have been built on top of that.
Absolutely.
So did it enable other things? And to me, that's the winner.
Right. Absolutely. And crucially, did it fundamentally alter human society, culture, and or survival? And that's where I come in.
Mm-hmm. So also, we want your thoughts. Let us know in the comments if you agree, disagree, or maybe we missed something that's obviously crucial to our existence.
Right. And we're going to get into a little bit of push and pull, a little bit of debate here. So there are no definitive answers, only strong arguments.
All right. Let's go back in time, and you go.
Okay, always let's begin. So the very first one that we're going to talk about is the control of fire. Now, fire is not an invention, but the ability to control it is the crux here. Okay. So what we're talking about is this isn't just about warmth. It's about cooking. It's about making food digestible, releasing more nutrients, which directly leads to increased brain development, as well as protection from predators and social bonding around the hearth, if you will. Okay. And when we think about all of that, it becomes actually the very first step towards civilization.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'll give you fire. When I saw fire, you put fire on the list. I'm going, oh, come on. But
Yeah, but again, it's not an invention, it's the control of fire, and that's the invention that we're talking about.
right, and over the years, it's the development and control of that fire that's made it not just a primitive tech,
Right.
but
As
it's
primitive as it is a tool when it is in control of some human being,
yeah, and it's our first energy source,
right?
and it's paving the way for everything that comes after that. So okay, controlling fire is all right, the first one. So
Right, right. Okay, so invention number two is, in fact, the invention of farming, or in other words, sustainable agriculture, repeatable agriculture.
yes, and systems of making it more efficient. I mean, we're not talking about, great big combines or automatic planting or
Yeah,
picking,
that comes later.
but we're talking about labor management and resource management and going from the hunter gatherer life to actually
Exactly.
planting and creating a crop that you have over a period of time. And then you have surplus,
Right.
you have specialization, you have villages and cities, and it's the original supply chain invention of,
Yeah.
okay, you do corn and I'll do beans and this guy will do wheat
Right.
and yeah.
Right. And really, as you said, it makes a pivot in human development and in human history, because we go from, in essence, clan hunter-gatherer societies to now where you can invest in the place that you want to live. And that's where we grow the villages, which then turn into the cities, which turn into kingdoms and empires and countries. All of that is pivotal on the idea that they can actually stay in a place and create a sustainable food supply.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And then talking about food supply and uh, supply chain, you need transportation.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So transportation, um, when you think about the wheel, we generally tend to think about transportation first and foremost. But if you take that same wheel and put it horizontally, it allows you to create pottery. If you take and you create
Mm.
cogs in that wheel and set a couple different cogs at 90 degrees, all of a sudden now you've got machinery. And by creating the gears, you
Mm.
create I mean, really, the wheel is elegant in its simplicity and yet profound in its implications.
Mhm.
Imagine trying to build pyramids without some kind of wheel mechanism. Okay. And then on top of that, we're talking about how you transport the goods from any one place to another place.
Yeah, and not just carts, but
Right.
I like your progression to gears and pulleys and spinning wheels for pottery and textiles. Um, it's the fundamental principle behind rotary motion.
Exactly.
And so that wheel is a foundational invention that from it grew off all of these other rotary motors are still used and critical in everything we do today.
Well, and you think about how many things, I mean, you start with that wheel, but then at some point you create a ball bearing, right? It's still a
Mhm.
wheel in essence, right? Um, and then as you continue to develop, um, even a propeller which spins around a hub, that in essence is a type of a wheel, right? And
Mm.
so it's very interesting, all of the myriad things that the wheel then ultimately spawns, right?
Right, and there's a lot of the basic machines that come
Right,
off of that. You know,
right.
you can combine the wheel with a lever, with a
Yes,
pulley, with a ramp. All those kind of things combine those basic gear, those basic machines that you learn about in seventh grade science, right?
right, right. Absolutely. And then let's go ahead and add invention number 4 to that, which is the invention of steel.
Mm, right. So it's interesting that material science breakthroughs have um, have shaped so much of our world. Early on, to be able to make a tool that would last more than a couple of whacks on a rock
Right,
or wood, being able to make a plane, a saw blade, you're making it stronger and more durable. You're combining metals and mixing bronze and iron, or
right,
making
right.
stainless steel. Development of stainless steel was just
Huge.
huge. And
Yes,
all it is a
absolutely.
little
Yeah,
additive you put in it while it's molten. But
yeah,
I've been exposed to a little bit of that through my most recent career in science, in learning about the alloys that go
yep.
into all our steels, our
Well, steel is an alloy, and then you add more to it. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that steel actually was invented and developed, but because it was a difficult process, it was considered to be extraordinarily valuable. And yes, certain societies and cultures did develop steel into limited use weaponry. Notably, some swords were definitely made out of very good steel, samurai swords, and in Spain, the rapier and the foil were made out of steel. But it wasn't until a man in England, a guy by the name of Bessemer, figured out how to make it uh, in a more of an assembly line process, that it was first able to be mass produced. And then it was Andrew Carnegie who heard about that process, went to England to see the Bessemer process, and brought that invention back to the United States, and he revolutionized construction and transportation with his ability to mass produce steel. And the very first steel making plant in America was 5 football fields long. And he was producing so much steel that the price of steel went from hundreds of dollars per ton down to a few dollars per ton.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Here's another really cool factoid for you. Okay.
Okay.
So prior to the invention of construction steel, the highest building in the United States, and I would dare say in the world, because I've also checked in Japan and in Europe, but in terms of building with wood, the highest you could go was about 5 stories. And then the wood
Mhm.
underneath on the base floor wouldn't be able to hold the weight of everything above it. It would collapse. They tried over and over and over again. And so construction steel is what enables or facilitates city skylines as skyscrapers,
Mm.
which again, we're talking about the end of the 1800s and rolling into the 1900s. Now, I'm going to blow your mind a little bit, because a lab here in the United States just announced 2 weeks ago that they had created a new wood byproduct that was stronger than steel and lighter than steel. And
Ooh,
it's a wood byproduct.
a wood
It's
byproduct.
engineered. It's absolutely engineered wood, but
Wow.
it has the wood structure or the wood base. And so this could throw us forward into a whole other way of building. It'll be
Man,
interesting.
think
It'll be
about
very
the, if you
interesting.
could bring down the price of building a home.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. So we've come a long ways. I mean, you think about the Iron Age, which gave way to steel,
Right.
particularly in its refined forms. We, like you said, um, plows started out as bone, animal bone, and then it shifted to wood, and then it shifted to iron, and then it shifted to steel because steel lasts longer. It stays sharper longer, right?
Hmm.
So stronger fortifications, and ultimately industrial strength, which changed America from being, in essence, a third or a second world country to being a world power.
Right. Yep. So we've gone from basic survival of the wheel and fire
Right? Right?
to now to an iron age. And now I think this we'll start seeing some launches of some really interesting technologies that, when I talk about technology, I think of your fifth one, the printing press. It's one of my favorites.
Yes, of course. And it should be noted that even though Gutenberg is credited with Johann Gutenberg was credited with creating or inventing, if you will, the movable type printing press,
Hmm.
he actually borrowed an idea that had been created in China, but
Yeah.
it wasn't practical yet for mass producing the printed page. And so it was really Johann Gutenberg's application of this other idea that allowed all of a sudden this enormous transition from one-off handwritten or hand copied uh, publications, notably the Holy Bible, right?
Hmm.
And and so what we're looking at is that suddenly we're now talking about being able to mass produce text and the content, the knowledge that comes along with that. And in a way, Gutenberg, who first published or printed and published the Holy Bible, and it was done in German, just so that you're aware,
Hmm.
because that's where he was. Um, and he felt like if he could get the Bible into the hands of the common people, that they would read it, because at this point in time in history, it was only the royalty and the clergy that were adept at reading. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
nobody else could read, but they weren't. It's not like they were completely um, illiterate, but the vast majority of them were. And this changes everything. And in point of fact, it really then fuels the Renaissance, the Reformation, and ultimately scientific revolution.
Right. Being able to create and share information. I mean, it's the foundation of our educational system. It
Absolutely.
it helps us promote um, religious and political and social
Yes.
ideas
Yes.
that are just so powerful. Now, if I'm remembering correctly from my history, and you'll have to correct me, I think it was in the mid 1800s, almost 200 years after
Right.
Gutenberg,
Right.
that the automated press became available, where it would feed the paper through
Yes.
rather than having to have, person feed a sheet in, crank it down, lift it, pull the sheet out. So
Yeah,
now
you're
that
right. It was
the
about
manuscript,
about the mid 1800s.
yeah, about mid 1800s.
Yeah.
So
And and again, as you said, it immediately then created the ability to share more information more rapidly. And so instead of, maybe creating a newsletter-ish newspaper that was a weekly publication, now you could actually provide printed information on a daily basis.
right, and thus it's born the daily newspaper.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, you kind of unchoke, if you will, the choke point or the bottleneck of information through the advent or the invention, the innovation of the printing press. So why don't you hit us with number 6?
Number 6, the compass. Okay, so the compass seems like, in fact, it's in our logo if you look at our
Yes,
live, right?
right?
The compass of being able to navigate the world, or even just your local area, and plot out maps and trade routes and cultural exchange, um, getting the directions right to get from A to B is really huge if you think about it. And the world shrinks, economies become interconnected, and
Yeah.
on a more modern basis, we have the GPS systems that can triangulate where I am at any place in the world. And of course, that takes a lot more technology than just a little compass that sits on a spindle and points north. But
Yeah.
that was the beginning.
It was the beginning, and it was the beginning of other instruments such as the astrolabe and some of the sextant, as an example.
Yep. Yep.
All of those, in essence, were spin-offs from the basic compass. The idea of latitude and longitude comes later because the compass now has the ability to reasonably be accurate. But with the invention of latitude and longitude, then it suddenly becomes a really powerful tool. And let me dispel a myth real quick, Randy. Most people on the planet throughout all of the ages understood that the earth was a sphere. This idea that the earth was flat and people were worried about, sailing off the edge and disappearing into space is complete bogus myth. Um,
Oh,
it, it
interesting.
really is. Yeah, all of the scientists, and you could say, well, what about the peasants and the simple people? No, it doesn't take a whole lot of time before you can figure out if you go a certain distance, something is happening so that you can't see where you came from, right? And if you're anywhere near the shore, you can actually see the curvature of the earth. And so it wasn't something that I don't even know where or when the myth was created, but the reality is that they did actually stay pretty close to shore because it wasn't about falling off the edge. It was the fact that they weren't sure where they were until the compass. And that allows them to say, okay, here's where we were. We're going to go out on this heading and we can come back on the opposite of that heading, right? So that makes a huge, huge, huge difference. So for centuries, navigation was guesswork and coastal reckoning and coastal hopping, right? So the compass allows that consistent direction finding. It opens up the oceans, especially with things like the astrolabe and the sextant and maps, right? Which enables the age of discovery and ultimately creates the truly globalization of the world as we know it today.
Right. Yep. And I think the map making was a real great invention, as well as an offshoot of that, being able to create a map or a globe.
A record of what you're seeing and where you're traveling, and being able to share that information again. Although it will be a while before you actually see that reproduced on printing presses, because that was tricky.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, yeah, map making becomes an integral part of the age of exploration. In fact, another myth to be busted. Columbus actually made 4 voyages, but never knew that he had bumped into a new continent. This is why he thought that he had discovered that shortcut route to India. It wasn't until Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian map maker, who realized, this isn't India. This is a different continent. And as he mapped and signed his name to those maps, that they ended up in the hands of a German cartographer or map maker who named the new continent Americus, and then later shortened to America. So fun stuff, right? Okay, so Randy, let's jump into, because we're getting closer to your favorite time frame, right?
I'm anxious, right?
Yeah, yeah. So again, electricity is not something that is invented per se. I mean, even Benjamin Franklin understood that lightning was an electrical bolt of energy, right?
Right.
But the harnessing of electricity, the ability to create it at will. In other words, do we can make an apparatus that actually creates electricity.
Yeah.
That is the invention that we're talking about as number 7. Okay. So think about life before electricity. Night, truly dark. I mean, yes, you have fire, but it's it's really dark. Okay. The ability to generate and distribute power transforms everything. Factories, homes, communication, medicine. It's the bedrock of our modern infrastructure.
Yeah, and this is an exciting thing that's only happened in the last couple hundred years, right?
Right?
It's really advanced quickly and has become one of the foundation inventions for just about everything that we do nowadays.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
just light. It's not just power. It's energy. It's industrial machine. It's computing. Without scalable electricity, none of our later inventions are possible.
Yeah, exactly. Today, I in my classroom, I'm using a computer to be able to display through a projector, which is light and
Mhm.
electricity, right? And then on top of that, in my hand, I'm holding a laser and a remote to be able to advance the PowerPoint that I'm showing my students.
Right.
All of that is based on electricity, all of it.
Right. And if and get we'll get a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit scientific here because the industry I work in now, we work
Right?
a lot with electricity. Right. Electricity is the ability to transfer energy from one place to another.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, a motor is a series of fixed magnets that are
Right?
pushing an electromagnetic pulse across some copper wires, and you transmit that. There's other electronics and things that are involved with
Yes.
it, but basically you're transmitting that energy to another location. So it's transfer of energy that is already in the magnets, and you've got to have some sort of energy to turn that generator. It could be a hand crank, it could be
Could be
uh,
water,
a
could be
water
steam, could be
combustion
gasoline.
engine. Yeah,
Right,
so there's
right.
so many things, and transferring that energy is really important for our homes and communications and hospitals and
And I love the way that you just said communication, because what you and I both know is that as you're transferring that energy, you can say stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, which means you're doing an on off, right?
Mhm.
And by combining those bits of either electricity flowing or not flowing, in other words, stop, go, or on, off, now you've created the ability to communicate with electricity. And so we're talking about
Mhm.
the ability to um, send information over the wires and then ultimately by um, uh, uh, glass, right? We're talking about fiber optics.
Right.
And now wirelessly, because we can send that information as energy through the air. I
Mhm.
mean, Randy, you and I right now, I'm not connected by a wire to you, and you're not connected by a wire to me. We
Right.
are operating completely wirelessly and
Yep.
interacting with the World Wide Web, the internet,
Right.
with pictures and sound and words and text, and look at what we've done.
There's
This is awesome.
there's literally thousands of ideas of people's brains that have come all together to make this little
Yes.
podcast possible.